Imagine for a second, right, that you wake up tomorrow morning and you just discover you have a superpower.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. But not just like a neat party trick. I mean the kind of raw reality bending power that people literally write mythologies about.
Right, like God tier stuff,
Exactly. And, you'd probably be ecstatic at first,
obviously.
but then almost immediately the catch hits you. And it's a big one. You realize that simply using this power, like simply letting it exist inside of you, it acts like a poison.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Right. It's a biological ticking time bomb. And if you don't figure out how to control it, it will literally shatter your mind, erase your personality, and drag you into this eternal catatonic nightmare.
Yeah, it's basically the ultimate hostage situation. But the hostage taker is, well, it's your own biology.
Exactly. And the absolute worst part. The only people who can teach you how to survive this power are the exact same people who brutally tortured your parents and drove them into exile.
Which is just, I mean, an impossible choice.
It really is. So, welcome to our latest deep dive. Today, we are taking you right into the middle of this massive stack of historical records, personal journals, and magical treatises, all centered around this young man named Nicias Silvermead.
Yeah, and as we go through this, we're going to deconstruct a really terrifying system of magic. We'll untangle this millennia-old conspiracy that honestly engineered a proxy war. And we're going to put you right in the middle of this agonizing dilemma.
A huge dilemma, yeah.
Right, where one guard basically has to choose between his absolute loyalty to his best friend and, the literal survival of the entire world.
No pressure.
Not at all. But, as we unpack these sources, I want to emphasize that we're not just looking at a simple story of someone waking up with magical ability.
Right, it's way deeper than that.
Oh, absolutely. If you read between the lines of these records, you find this masterclass in political manipulation.
Yeah.
You see systemic prejudice and really the terrifying lengths that leaders will go to just to maintain a global balance of power.
Yeah, it's like we're looking at a society that treats entire races of people as just like pawns on a cosmic chessboard.
Exactly.
So to get you situated on this board, let's start off in a place called Wyvern's Court.
Right.
Picture this really fragile, very newly established society, and they're trying to unify two races who have historically just hated each other.
Like deep generational hatred.
Yeah, so you have the avians, who are bird shapeshifters, and the serpiente, who are snake shapeshifters.
And this is where we find Nicias.
Exactly. Nicias is a guard here. He's young, he's super capable, and he's sworn to protect the Wyvern princess, Eliza.
Right.
And he thinks he's got his life totally figured out. Like, there's this account of him in his falcon form flying alongside Eliza. They're in this friendly race.
Yeah, it's described as this really pure, joyful moment.
Totally. You can feel the wind, the rhythm of the earth beneath them. And then out of nowhere, the bottom just completely falls out.
It does. And the physical and psychological sensory descriptions in Nicias' accounts of this exact moment are incredibly vivid.
They really are. It's tough to read.
Yeah, he describes losing the rhythm of the sky. Like, it isn't a stumble, it isn't a gust of wind knocking him off course.
Right.
It is this utter, complete disconnection from his physical reality. He just falls.
Just drops like a stone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that for an avian, flying is autonomic.
Yeah.
You don't forget to fly any more than you forget to, make your heart beat.
Yeah, it's hardwired.
Right. Yet he suddenly cannot maintain his wings. He plummets, and he barely manages to shift back into his human form before he hits the dirt.
Just completely exhausted and convulsing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the physical crash is honestly nothing compared to the mental onslaught that hits him the second he's on the ground.
Oh, the vision.
The visions are insane. He starts experiencing these horrific, completely disconnected flashes. He sees these eyes staring at him, eyes the color of blue opals, like liquid silver eyes. And then the imagery just bleeds. He sees mercury turning into garnet.
Right, the color shifts.
Yeah, and suddenly he's staring into these twin pools of blood cobra eyes that are just absolutely furious at his intrusion.
It's an intense psychic backlash.
It is. And right as this happens, this massive psychic force just shoves him, and there's a voice screaming in his head to basically get out.
Right. So let's break down the mechanics of what's actually happening to his brain here, because it's fascinating.
Please do.
Nicias is experiencing the sudden, violent onset of Ahnmik.
Which is the magic of the falcon.
Exactly. The Falcons of Ahnmik, who are this highly secretive, isolated race living across the ocean.
Right.
But this isn't just like standard everyday magic. This is raw, psychic, world-altering power. And it's completely untamed inside him.
Yeah.
So when Nicias manages to drag himself home and finally confronts his parents, Kel and Sebastian, though Sebastian now goes by Andreos, the truth of his genetics finally comes out.
And it's a massive bombshell.
Huge. Nicias hasn't just developed magic. He has inherited the direct royal magic of the Falcon Empress's bloodline.
Which is a power that is so volatile, so inherently dangerous, that his parents literally fled their island home before he was born just to escape it.
Yeah, they had to run.
And to hide from this power, and from the Empress, Nicias' grandmother, a woman named Araceli, who is the heir to the throne, she magically banned his parents' powers,
Right.
trapping them permanently in their avian forms.
We really need to linger on this concept of bound magic for a moment, because it is crucial to understanding the sheer brutality of the Falcon culture you're about to enter.
It's definitely not a gentle process.
No, not at all. Araceli didn't just snap her fingers and turn off their magic like a light switch.
Right.
The magical physics of Ahnmik dictate that royal blood simply cannot survive without intense training. The power is just too immense.
So consume them.
Exactly. So to bind it tightly enough to keep his parents alive off the island, Araceli had to physically carve the containment spells into their flesh.
Oh, man. Yeah, there's that moment in the records where Nicias' father removes his shirt to show Nicias the reality of what Ahnmik actually is.
It's a really powerful scene.
It is. I want you to picture this. Nicias looks at his father's back, his shoulders, his arms, and he just sees this canvas of scars.
Right.
Some are these fine, neat lines from a surgically sharp blade, but others are broad, thick, and puckered like someone took a branding iron to him.
Yeah.
And woven directly into these scars are these shimmering lines of iridescent silver, blue, and violet magic. The records describe it as this twisted work of art created with blades and raw power.
And the Falcons, chillingly, call this the Empress's mercy.
The Empress's mercy. I mean, that is just a horrific euphemism.
It really is. It's a euphemism for systematic mutilation.
Yeah.
And think about the profound trauma embedded in that act of exile. Nicias' parents didn't just move to a new country.
No, they gave up everything.
They gave up their royal status. They gave up their true forms as peregrine falcons. They gave up immense, godlike magical powers.
Right.
They fundamentally erased who they were. Sebastian changed his name to Andreos. They adopted the surname Silvermead. They went into deep, deep cover.
Just to protect themselves from a society that views mutilation as a perfectly acceptable form of control.
Exactly.
It makes you realize the sheer desperation they must have felt. But okay, let's unpack this for a second.
Okay.
Because this is where I start to look at the situation and think, wait a minute, you have this incredibly volatile magic in your bloodline, right?
Yeah.
You literally carved it out of your own skin to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So why on earth would you not tell your son?
It's a huge question.
Right. It's like trying to put a physical padlock on a hurricane. Sure, Kel and Andreos built a dam by binding their own magic. They thought they capped the pipe.
Yeah.
But the pressure of those genetics didn't disappear. It just transferred down into the groundwater and seeped into the next generation.
Water always finds a way out.
Exactly. And it burst violently in Nicias because he lacks any sort of training, any valve to regulate the flow.
Right.
I look at this and I have to ask, isn't hiding this from him a massive failure on the parents' part? I mean, they knew he was a falcon.
Oh, absolutely.
His hair started turning silver when he was 3 years old, and they just left him totally in the dark.
It's an incredibly frustrating paradox, I agree. But from a psychological standpoint, it does make a tragic sort of sense.
How so?
Well, Kel and Andreos are deeply, profoundly traumatized victims of Ahnmik.
Right, the scars prove that.
Exactly. And their trauma response was complete avoidance. They wanted to give Nicias the one thing they were denied, which was a normal, free life away from the cruel clinical control of the White City.
Yeah, I get that.
But you're right. By trying to protect his mind from the mere idea of Ahnmik, they left his biology completely defenseless against the reality of it.
They essentially threw him into the deep end of the ocean with cement shoes and told him he was just standing in a puddle.
Precisely. Because what's fascinating here is that the magic of Ahnmik is not a passive tool. It's an active, consuming force.
It wants to be used.
It does. If a falcon doesn't actively master their magic, the magic will master them. It initiates this process the falcons call shm'Ecl.
Oh, right, the numbness.
Yes. It's a creeping numbness that paralyzes the body and the mind, putting the user into a void where they are trapped, basically neither alive nor dead.
Wow.
So by keeping Nicias ignorant, his parents nearly doomed him to that exact horrifying fate.
Which means Nicias is backed into an impossible corner now. Because if he stays in Wyvern's court with the people he loves, his brain is going to literally melt.
Yeah, he will die from his own untamed power.
Right. So his only option is to return to the island of Ahnmik, the very epicenter of his parents' trauma.
Just to learn how to survive his own mind.
Exactly. But surprisingly, he doesn't have to make this journey blindly.
No, he doesn't.
Because a raven who has been living quietly in Wyvern's court for 2 years, this woman named Lily, suddenly steps forward and drops a massive bombshell.
Right.
She is a falcon.
And this is where we get our first real glimpse into the biological impact of falcon magic.
Yeah, it's wild.
Because Lillian drops her physical illusion for the journey back, and the physiological changes are staggering. The magic doesn't just exist in their minds. It rewrites their cellular structure.
Yeah.
Lillian's skin becomes this unnatural, flawless cream color. Her hair transitions from honey to deep cobalt and indigo.
All right.
She sprouts these massive peregrine wings. Her eyes shift to the colors of the ocean.
It's like a full metamorphosis.
It really is.
Yeah.
The magic literally alters melanin and keratin, transforming their physical appearance to reflect their power.
And it sounds beautiful, sure, but in a very predatory, almost unnatural way.
Very predatory.
So they fly across the ocean for days, and when they finally reach the island of Ahnmik, it is an absolute sensory overload.
Oh, completely.
They call it the White City. Imagine architecture carved entirely from crystal. There are these 3 massive, pure white spires called the Yanamarl.
Right.
Glowing magical runes are etched into every single surface, pulsing with these colors like seafoam green to bruised cranberry.
The aesthetics are incredible.
They are, and the roads are made of this crystal-like material that actually yields under your feet like carpet, and they literally sing.
Yeah.
It sounds like paradise. But honestly, when you dig into it, it's terrifying.
It is deeply terrifying because that beauty is a mask.
Hmm.
It's a mask for a rigid, absolute caste system. The society of Ahnmik is strictly stratified based on magical purity and control.
Right.
You have the Pure Diamond Guards, whose magic was deemed too volatile when they were children, so they were forcibly bound and permanently forbidden from ever taking to the sky.
Which is a huge deal for a bird shapeshifter.
Exactly. Then you have the Mercy, who act as elite executioners, mind walkers, and spies.
Yeah.
You have the Royals, who wield near absolute authority.
Yeah.
And at the very bottom, you have the Mongrels, the Queemac.
The mixed blood citizens.
Yes. Anyone with a drop of non-falcon blood. They are considered inherently dangerous, spiritually polluted, and are absolutely forbidden from flying.
So they're just grounded.
Grounded, trapped in a society that literally worships the sky.
Wow. And stepping into this hyper-controlled, deeply prejudiced society is Nicias, the son of traders.
Right. He is brought immediately before his grandmother, Araceli, the woman who tortured his parents. And you'd expect her to throw him in a dungeon, right?
That would be the logical assumption.
But she doesn't. She does something much more insidious. She launches this campaign of honey-coated manipulation.
It's really unsettling.
It is. She treats him not as a rebel, but as a long-lost prince. She sets him up in these luxurious quarters. She surrounds him with submissive servants who bow and call him sir.
Which he hates, by the way.
Oh, he is incredibly uncomfortable with it. But she immediately starts grooming him.
And to understand how effective Araceli's grooming is, we really have to talk about those singing living roads of Ahnmik.
Oh, the roads, yes.
Because the environment itself is a weapon.
Yeah.
The records detail that these crystal roads are actually soaked in thousands of years of the inhabitants' dreams, thoughts, and prejudices.
They have a memory.
They possess a collective psychic personality. So if the culture of the city hates outsiders, the roads physically reflect that hate. They will subtly shift, leading an unwanted person astray or straight off a cliff into the water. The architecture of the city actively enforces the will of the culture.
I really want you to think about that for a second. How do you fight back against a city that actively hates you?
It's nearly impossible.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting. I picture Ahnmik like an ultra-exclusive, high-end country club, but the membership fee is your free will.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right, because it looks incredibly beautiful, the food is exquisite, the clothes are spun from silk, the people are gorgeous.
Yeah.
But the moment you express a dissenting thought, or you step off the approved ideological path, the security system, which is the literal ground beneath your feet, turns hostile.
It's the ultimate environmental trap. And Araceli plays it flawlessly.
She does.
She doesn't punish Nicias for the sins of his parents. She attempts to drown him in privilege. She wants to surgically separate him from his avian heart his loyalty to Wyvern's court through sheer opulence.
Yeah, she whispers to him that back home he will always be an oddity, a bodyguard, an outsider.
Right.
But here in Ahnmik, he is pure royal blood. He is quite literally a god among mortals.
But you can see the cracks.
Oh, for sure.
Because Nicias reacts viscerally when a servant casually drops the word mongrel Quemac.
Yeah. Nicias grew up in a land built on mixed blood. He serves a mixed blood queen. That word just disgusts him.
It does.
But it raises a really uncomfortable psychological question. How long can you, or anyone, resist systemic prejudice when the entire environment is meticulously designed to reward your compliance and punish your divergence?
It's an insidious form of brainwashing.
Totally. They dress him in royal silks. They comb his hair specifically to highlight the blue strands of magic, treating it like a crown. They are branding him with their supremacy.
It's a chilling aesthetic philosophy.
Yeah.
In Ahnmik, the physical manifestations of magic, the blue hair, the violet eyes, are treated as objective markers of absolute superiority.
Right.
The deeper the color, the stronger the magic, and therefore the greater the person's worth. Araceli equates genetic purity with physical beauty and moral authority.
Yeah.
It creates this culturally enforced superiority complex. The citizens of Ahnmik are trapped not just by harsh laws, but by a deeply ingrained belief system that tells them their physical existence makes them inherently, biologically better than the savages across the ocean.
Right. It's basically eugenics dressed up in crystal and silk.
Exactly.
It's so polished, so clean. But beneath that glittering surface, there is a massive, dark consequence to this rigid pursuit of pure power.
Because there have to be a breaking point.
Exactly. Because if you have a society that demands absolute perfection, what happens to the people who aren't perfect?
Right.
If you can't control your magic, Ahnmik doesn't heal you, it discards you. And she finds out exactly where they put the discarded.
Yeah, he stumbles upon a place called the Halls of shm'Ecl.
Just a terrifying place.
Yeah, it is. It's a building marked by these imposing black glass doors, guarded by a man named Servos. And the most striking thing about these halls is the silence.
Yeah.
The singing magic of the Rhodes completely stops here. It is totally devoid of life. And this is where the Falcons, who lose control of their magic, the ones who succumb to that numbness we mentioned earlier, this is where they end up.
Trapped in eternal catatonia.
Yes.
And to really grasp the horror of this, we have to unpack the underlying physics of their magic system.
Okay, let's do it.
They believe in two opposing forces. There's shm'Ecl, which represents the void. It's a lack of existence, absolute silence, death.
Right.
If you think about it in physics terms, it's absolute zero, the complete cessation of all molecular movement.
Yeah, complete stillness.
And on the flip side, you have shm'Ecl, creation, eternity, heat, madness, movement, the Big Bang.
Right.
So Nicias walks into these silent halls and he sees rows of bodies just lying there, completely checked out of reality, consumed by absolute zero.
And among these catatonic bodies, he finds a young woman named Hai.
Hai is such a tragic character.
She really is. Hai is the daughter of a woman named Darian, who was a former royal executioner and a serpiente father.
Right.
Because of her mixed blood, the rigid, icy laws of Ahnmik's magic completely rejected her biology. Her serpiente blood is pure mayhem. It's fire and chaos.
Yeah.
And the falcon magic of Ecleatic, the ice and stillness, just couldn't control it. Her magic literally fought itself inside her body.
Wow.
It burned and shattered her own wings. She is covered in this terrifying tar-like black and crimson magic that just scorches her skin. She is the ultimate tragic victim of Ahnmik's obsession with purity.
So Nicias sees her lying there and he reaches out and just touches her arm, and instantly he is sucked into an accidental mind walk.
Yes, pulls him right in.
He is pulled directly into Hai's internal nightmare. Imagine waking up in a landscape made entirely of black ice, surrounded by these razor blade walls with massive, venomous serpents actively hunting you.
It's terrifying.
And the scariest part is this isn't just a bad dream. When Nicias is attacked by a serpent in her mind and his arm brushes against the jagged ice, he wakes up back in the physical world bleeding.
Yeah.
His actual physical arm is sliced open and wrapped in her cold black magic.
Which illustrates the extreme danger of mind walking. When you step into the mind of someone who is lost to Ecl, you're subjecting your own biology to their psychic defenses.
Right.
You are making their reality your reality. And Hai's reality is this devastating paradox.
That's so.
Now, she intentionally hides her consciousness deep within the void of Ecl because the real world and her physical body offer nothing but emotional and physical agony.
Right, the burns.
Exactly. But by staying in the void is slowly eroding her identity. She is actively generating these terrifying hallucinations just to feel something, to keep a grasp on some semblance of self before the void consumes her entirely.
Think of it like being locked inside a sensory deprivation tank that you can never, ever leave.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. At first, you might welcome it. It's a relief from the overwhelming noise of a society that hates you, or the sheer pain of your own magic burning you alive.
Yeah.
But eventually, your brain starves for input. It panics. Your mind starts creating terrifying, nightmarish hallucinations just to prove that you still exist.
Until you just run out of energy.
Exactly. Until eventually you run out of energy, you shut down, and you just merge with the darkness.
It's a horrific existence.
Mm.
And it brings up a really profound critique of Falcon society.
A glaring critique. Because you
Yeah.
look at this and you have to ask, if these falcons have all this godlike reality-bending power, why do they just abandon people like Hyde or rot in the dark?
Right.
Is it an actual technical inability to heal her? Or is it pure, unadulterated disgust for her impure blood? They literally treat her like a dirty secret they've just swept under the rug.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's really a combination of prejudice and a deeply ingrained existential terror.
Terror of what? Themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see, because Falcon magic draws entirely on stillness, silence, and the mind, every single Falcon is constantly walking a tightrope over the void of shm'Ecl.
Oh.
It is their natural, inevitable endpoint if they ever lose focus. Their fear of shm'Ecl is absolute.
Wow.
Therefore, abandoning the victims of shm'Ecl isn't just about racial prejudice, though it heavily relies on it. It's a massive societal self-preservation tactic.
Yeah.
It is a culture terrified of looking at its own fragility. They lock people like Hyde away behind black glass doors so they don't have to face the darkness that inherently lives inside every single one of them.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
It's so dark. And the physical scars on Hyde, the shattered wings, the tar magic, they are horrifying, but they're just a symptom of a much larger systemic cruelty that infects this entire world.
Because it goes much deeper than just the halls.
It does, because Nicias doesn't just meet Hyde in those halls. He meets her mother, Darien. And Darien is about to casually drop a secret that completely rewrites the entire history of the world Nicias thought he knew.
Darien is such a fascinating figure. She's a former member of the Mercy. She was an elite mind walker and a personal executioner for Empress Jarsa.
So she knows all the dark secrets.
Yes. But now she is physically bound within these halls, fully aware of her surroundings, but trapped.
Right.
When Nicias manages to unbind her consciousness, she reveals the explosive, terrifying truth about the ancient, bloody war between the Avians and the Serpiente.
Which is the very war that defines the society Nicias grew up in.
Exactly.
Right, because growing up in Wyvern's Court, Nicias was taught standard history.
Yeah.
He learned about this perpetual, brutal war that lasted for millennia. The Avians and the Serpiente just naturally hated each other. It was a blood feud. It was just a grim fact of life.
That's what everyone believes.
But Darien explains that millennia ago, there was no such thing as an Avian.
Right.
There were only the Serpiente, who followed the chaotic, prolific fire magic of Ahnmik, and the Falcons, who followed the icy stillness of Ahnmik.
And the Falcon priestesses, specifically Empress Jarsa and her heir, Araceli, looked across the ocean and felt fear.
Yeah.
They feared the Serpiente. They believed the Serpiente were too prolific, too passionate, and that their chaotic, unpredictable magic was a direct existential threat to the ordered stillness of Ahnmik.
So they decided to do something about it.
Right. To neutralize this perceived threat, Jarsa and Araceli orchestrated a masterpiece of geopolitical manipulation.
I really want you to brace yourself for how deeply messed up this is.
It is incredibly dark.
The Falcons took a human child, a girl named Alasdair. They raised her, artificially imbued her with power, and built an entirely new empire around her that was strong enough to rival the Serpiente.
Yeah, they literally created a superpower from scratch.
And then when the time was right, they used their psychic persuasion magic to force a serpent to assassinate Alasdair.
Yeah.
They literally mind-controlled an innocent ally to stab this young leader in the back.
And this single orchestrated act of betrayal shattered the world. It created the avian race as a distinct, vengeful faction united in grief and fury. The avians instantly retaliated by slaughtering the original leaders of the Serpiente.
Right.
And just like that, the Falcons launched a perpetual, bloody global war. By doing this, the Falcons permanently split the chaotic magic of their rivals in half.
Yeah, ensuring they'd never unite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ensuring that the Avians and Serpiente would be so busy slaughtering each other for centuries that they could never, ever look across the ocean and threaten the White City.
I really need to emphasize the sheer scale of this manipulation. Think about real-world history.
Okay.
It's like two superpowers intentionally funding, arming, and inciting a proxy war for thousands of years, just to make sure a third, potentially stronger nation never manages to unify.
It's staggering.
They didn't just win a military victory, they permanently altered the genetic, cultural, and historical makeup of the entire planet.
Yeah.
And the only reason Darien even found out about this was because she fell in love with a serpent. She tried to save her lover from a specific avian poison, and when she analyzed the chemical breakdown of the poison, she realized it was unmistakably crafted by Araceli.
That was the smoking gun. Darien realized that the Falcons weren't just the ancient architects of the war, they were actively, continuously maintaining it.
Yeah.
Whenever the war between the Avians and Serpiente began to lull, whenever peace seemed possible, the Falcons would quietly inject new poisons, new assassinations, and new paranoia to keep the two sides at each other's throats.
Okay, but stop and think about the ethics of this for a second.
It's grim.
We're talking about engineering an entire race of people just to play cosmic peacemaker through perpetual slaughter.
Right.
How does someone like Araceli or the Empress Jarsa look in the mirror? How do they justify the millions of deaths, the generations of orphans, the endless suffering that resulted from this? It feels purely psychopathic.
This raises an important question, though. It's easy to label it psychopathy, but to understand their motives, we have to look at the philosophical and physical divide between their two magics.
Okay, I'm listening.
Ahnmik is absolute order, control, stillness. Ahnmik is infinite chaos, emotion, fire.
Right?
From Empress Jarsa's perspective, orchestrating this endless war wasn't evil. It was terrible, necessary arithmetic.
Terrible arithmetic. Wow.
She truly believed that if the chaotic magic of Ahnmik was ever allowed to unify and proliferate unchecked, it would act like a cosmic wildfire and burn the entire world, including Ahnmik, to ash.
Yeah.
So she sacrificed millions of lives in conventional physical warfare to prevent the total magical annihilation of the planet. To her mind, a carefully managed, eternal bloodbath was preferable to the apocalypse.
That is just... wow. But, hearing this world-shattering secret forces Nicias to completely reevaluate every single person around him.
Obviously, yeah.
If the leaders of Ahnmik are capable of engineering a 1,000-year war just for balance, what else are they controlling? What else in his life is a lie?
Right.
And the horrifying answer is basically everything, including his own heart.
Yes. This brings us to the devastating, intimate betrayal regarding Lily.
Oh, this part hurts.
It does. Lillian, the raven who befriended Nicias back in Wyvern's court, the woman who guided him safely to Ahnmik, who helped him navigate the city, and who he had just recently become romantically and physically intimate with.
Right. She's not just a friend. She's part of the Mercy.
Yes.
She is Araceli's elite executioner, spy, and warden. Nicias discovers that Araceli actually sent Lily to Wyvern's court years ago, specifically to monitor him.
Long-term surveillance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when Nessus's magic finally awoke in that pressurized pipe burst, Araceli recalled Lily so that Lily could be the one to guide him home.
Yeah.
Her mission was to seduce him, control the narrative he received, and ensure he formed a deep emotional bond with Ahnmik. Nicias realizes in this sickening rush that his arrival, his magical lessons, his romantic relationship, it was all entirely orchestrated.
Every single bit of it.
He has never made a free choice in his life. He is just a pawn on Araceli's chessboard.
It is a profound violation of his autonomy. But we must also analyze the deep tragedy of Lily's position in this system. Because the records indicate a crucial complication.
What's that?
Even as she was manipulating Nicias under strict orders, she genuinely fell in love with him.
Well, yeah.
The line between her mission and her emotions blurred. So when Nicias discovers the truth and vehemently rejects her, Lily is forced to return to Araceli and report that she failed her mission to secure his loyalty.
And in Ahnmik, failure is not tolerated.
No. Her punishment is swift, silent, and horrific.
Yeah, Nicias uses his developing magic to scry on her, basically to check on her from afar, and he witnesses her being psychically tortured by the other members of the Mercy.
It's a brutal scene.
It is, and it's not physical pain. It's a torture of pure, sweeping, existential despair. She isn't screaming. She is just weeping, drowning in the absolute agony of her own failure to her empress.
Yeah.
It proves that the tools of Ahnmik, the elite guards, the spies, they suffer just as much as the victims they oppress. In this society, everyone is trapped. The cage is just painted different colors.
Stripped of all his illusions about his grandmother and his lover, Nicias turns back to the only person who has been brutally honest with him, Darien.
Right.
Recognizing his potential, Darien trains Nicias to do something unthinkable. She teaches him to deliberately ride the shm'Ecl.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Very. Instead of fighting the void, instead of fearing the numbness, she teaches him to surrender to it, to dance with it, and to use it as a conduit.
Yeah.
This dangerous mastery allows him to undertake a deep, stabilized mind walk with Hai. And it is within Hai's mind that the true scope of the political tragedy comes into full, terrifying focus.
Through this ancient magic, right?
Yes, through the Sakurishi, the dance of the future.
So Hai uses this incredibly rare magic to show Nicias visions of what is to come. She shows him what happens if he simply gives in to Araceli's grooming. If he stays in the White City, accepts the silk robes, and becomes Ahnmik's royal prince, he will inevitably become the catalyst for a chain of events that leads to the total destruction of Wyvern's court. In these visions, he sees his best friend, Queen Eliza, dead in his arms. He sees the vibrant, diverse market of his home burned to ash.
It's vital to unpack how the Sakurishi actually functions here.
Okay, yeah.
It does not show a fixed, absolute destiny. It acts as a hyper-advanced probability engine. It shows the most likely outcomes based on the present trajectory of all political and magical forces.
Right.
Hai is using it to prove to Nicias that Araceli's machinations will eventually force him into an impossible corner. You see, Araceli wants an heir to secure her own political power, ultimately so she can overthrow Empress Jarsa.
Ah, internal politics.
Exactly. If Nicias exists as that royal heir, his very presence on the board will unbalance the global geopolitical landscape. His existence will be used as a weapon that will obliterate the fragile Avian Serpiente alliance back home.
So what does this all mean? Put yourself in Nicias' shoes. It means you are playing a rigged casino game.
Yeah.
Whether you play aggressively or defensively, the House Araceli always wins. If you fight her, your people die. If you join her, your people die. The only way to save Wyvern's court is to walk away from the table entirely, to refuse to play. But I have to stop and question Darien's motives here.
Fair point.
Is she really doing this out of the goodness of her heart to help Nicias? Or is she just using him as a loaded gun to strike back at the Empress who locked her in a catatonic prison? Honestly, is Darien any better than Araceli?
That is the brilliant, cynical nature of Darien's manipulation. She doesn't pretend to be noble.
She just admits it.
She freely admits to Nicias that she is using him. She explicitly tells him, "I will only manipulate you with the truth." Araceli has no such qualms.
Wow.
Darien earlier mentioned this poetic concept of borrowing a feather of a soul and predicted that Nicias would destroy an empire.
Yeah.
If we extrapolate on the mechanics of this prophecy, it doesn't necessarily mean he will lead a military assault with swords and fire. Nicias' mere refusal to play the game, his total rejection of the royal seat, represents an ideological destruction of Ahnmik's absolute control over fate. By refusing to be a piece on their board, he shatters the illusion that the Falcons control the future.
Which is huge. Armed with this horrifying knowledge of certain doom, Nicias makes a desperate, incredibly risky play.
He has to.
He uses his newfound mastery of the void, combined with Darien's complex psychic illusions, to smuggle the comatose body of Hai completely out of Ahnmik.
Yeah.
They escape the island, flying continuously over the ocean for 6 grueling days. They have to fly in their weaker, half-bird demi-forms just to avoid detection by the Mercy.
Which is an agonizing physical trial.
It really is. But they make it. They cross the ocean and bring the heavy, world-ending secrets of the White City back to Wyvern's court.
But as you might expect, arriving home does not bring Nicias peace.
No, of course not.
He is met with immediate suspicion. His own mother, Kel, looks at Darien, her former closest friend, and feels absolutely nothing.
Because of the memory wipes.
Yes. Araceli's memory wipes were so thorough, so surgically precise, that Kel's past has been completely erased.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. Furthermore, Nicias discovers a hidden faction of exiled falcons who have been secretly living in Wyvern's court individuals named Gren, Spark, and Opal.
Right.
These people live in absolute daily terror of the Mercy finding them. When they sense the lingering magic of the Mercy on Nicias, they treat him not as a savior, but as a radioactive threat. They treat him with outright hostility.
You really have to feel for these exiled falcons. Their existence is a tragedy. They are refugees in the truest sense.
Yeah.
They fled a culture that would happily mutilate or kill them for their imperfections, but they are hiding in a society that would slaughter them on sight if their true identities as falcons were ever exposed.
You're trapped.
Completely trapped squarely in the crossfire of the very war their ancestors secretly started.
Feeling the walls closing in and pushed to the absolute brink, Nicias does something incredibly bold.
Yeah.
He projects his mind all the way back across the ocean to Ahnmik to confront Empress Jarsa directly. He demands answers.
And this is where Sharsa drops the veil and delivers her ultimate chilling defense of the ancient conspiracy.
Right. She doesn't deny anything.
No. Instead, she basically lays out the blueprint for the apocalypse. She says to Nicias, "Look at your queen, Eliza. She is a wyvern. She is the first physical, biological unification of avian and serpiente.
Yeah?
If she takes a mate and has a child, that child will inherit the fully recombined magic of Ahnmik.
Right.
Thousands of years of artificially separated magic. The magic we split to save the world will come back together in one single vessel. And this chaotic magic will be completely uncontrollable. It will, without a biological doubt, burn the world to ash."
Let's analyze the physics of Jarsa's ultimate ultimatum, because Nicias does try to find a loophole here.
Yeah, he tries to reason with her.
He asks her, why not just bind the child's magic? You bound my parents' magic to save them. Do the same for Eliza's child.
Seems logical.
But Jarsa explains the terrifying limitation of her power. She cannot. The magic of Ahnmik is ice, order, and absolute stillness. The magic of Ahnmik is fire, emotion, and infinite chaos.
Right.
Trying to put absolute zero and the Big Bang into the same vessel creates a reality-breaking paradox. Jarsa claims she is blind to the warmth of Ahnmik. She simply cannot weave a binding for a power she cannot comprehend.
Wow.
Therefore, she presents him with a binary choice. The only way for the world to survive is if Eliza's future child is assassinated, or if Wyvern's court fundamentally fractures, giving up its unity to prevent the bloodlines from ever mixing further.
I look at this and I compare Eliza's future child to a nuclear reactor being built without any control rods.
That's exactly what it is.
It's incredibly awe-inspiringly powerful, sure, but a meltdown isn't just a slight risk. It's a guaranteed biological certainty.
Yeah.
However, as I'm reading these transcripts, I find myself aggressively questioning Jarsa's truthfulness. You have to ask yourself, is this a genuine, scientifically sound warning about the end of the world? Or is this just the ultimate fear tactic? Is she just spinning a terrifying hypothetical to ensure the Falcons maintain their global supremacy by keeping their rivals permanently divided and terrified? She's lied about literally everything else in history. Why should we believe her now?
And that, right there, is the terrifying paradox that Nicias is trapped in.
That's impossible.
He is sworn as a wyvern of honor. His entire life's purpose is to protect Eliza and her future line with his life.
Yeah.
But if he honors that vow and protects her future child, he might be protecting the exact instrument of global destruction. If he does his job perfectly, the world ends. He is trapped between his sacred vow of personal loyalty and the survival of the entire planet.
It is an agonizing, impossible dilemma. So let's just zoom out for a second and summarize this incredible, harrowing journey.
Okay.
Nicias started this story just seeking a simple cure for his own magical affliction. He just wanted the horrific visions and the numbness to stop.
And instead of a simple medical cure, he uncovered a conspiracy that literally rewrote the history of the world. He discovered that the foundational conflict of his entire society, the blood feud that defined his people, was entirely manufactured by sociopathic immortals playing at being gods.
And I think the emotional core of this deep dive, the true lingering tragedy of the Falcons, is that their relentless pursuit of absolute control over magic resulted in a society entirely devoid of true compassion or freedom.
Oh, absolutely.
Look at the wreckage they leave behind. You have Lily, who was psychologically tortured simply for loving him.
Right.
You have Hai, who was left to rot in a dark void because her biology was deemed impure.
Yeah.
You have his own parents, who had to violently carve the magic out of their own skin just to escape. Ahnmik isn't a paradise. It's a prison built of white crystal and singing roads.
They sacrificed their humanity to master the void, only to realize that in the end, the void was all they had left.
So we want to leave you with this final impossible thought experiment. Put yourself in Nicias' shoes right now. You hold the secrets of the world. You know that the future child of your best friend and queen might possess a magic that will literally end the world. What do you do?
It's a huge question.
Do you trust the apocalyptic prophecy of a ruthless empress who engineers proxy wars and tortures her own people in the name of balance?
Right.
Or do you blindly protect the child, honoring your sacred oath, and risk watching everything you love burn to ashes? Where's the exact line between preserving peace and enforcing tyranny?
Yeah.
Think about that ticking time bomb in your chest. Sometimes the diagnosis isn't just murky. Sometimes every possible cure is fatal.
Until next time.